So, here we have double trouble. Nothing, do not adjust your screen. You are in fact seeing two enterprises at the same time. And here I am entering into the original series movie era with these toys. Now, my boxes here are slightly strange. The one behind these enterprises is correct for the enterprise on the left. And I've got another box to show you which isn't quite right for the enterprise on the right. What we have on the left is a battle damaged original refit original series enterprise. So this is the ship that you see in the motion picture, and then you see it in Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, and then finally in Star Trek III The Search for Spock. This one is not in fact originally the Enterprise. The NCC-1701-A is the same Constitution class ship as the original Enterprise refit, but it was originally the Yorktown and it was rechristened Enterprise for the end of Star Trek IV The Voyage Home, and we then see the crew using it in full in Star Trek V. So, what can I tell you about these? Well, the one on the left, per its box, was actually one of the ships that Art Asylum did without Diamond Select. And it inherits a certain something from the NX-01 enterprises that Art Asylum released, and that is the world's scariest stand. These stands are incredibly flimsy looking, and this is a lot heavier than the NX-01s were. So all you have to support this rather weighty ship is this: a thin, curved, slightly transparent sort of ellipse of a thing, and it is literally it's that thin. It's wafer thin, and on this the entire rather heavy Enterprise model with its 3 AAA batteries rests. Now, they actually moved away from these, I think, when Diamond Select took over, in favour of retaining the ball joints but keeping a sort of a straight attachment into the ship. But here, the ball joint, you have to really, really force right into this this sort of this joint here, where the battery compartment sits. So you have this flap, which is the sort of the hatch that you can attach when you don't want to use it just as a model, as a sort of blanked piece. But this ball joint's got to go right the way in there, and it is really hard to get in there. So I actually took the hatch off and put the stand in separately, and then it reattached the whole thing to the model, rather than trying to ram it in whilst I was holding the toy, because I was afraid I was going to break it. But nonetheless, it does display them very, very nicely, as long as you have a certain amount of bravery in putting it in the first place, which is, it's not that easy to do. So there is something odd about this Enterprise, because if I show you the box, and I did comment on this the first time I did a video on this one, but the box very clearly says Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan. However, the battle damage here, this is not Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan damage. It's nicely done of its sort, and I have said before that I'm not a massive fan of battle damage editions of ships, because it doesn't give you any options. This comes as it is. So you can see that this is quite a nice battle damage sort of detail, because you can see it's sort of exploding from the inside, and that's and it's there's a lot of sort of carbon scoring on the hull, all that sort of good stuff. However, none of that happened in Star Trek II. No. Now, this side damage, yes, that's Star Trek II. And I was noticing on another video about this one that you get this nice sort of mottled effect here as if they've started trying to repair it there. But as I say, this is not Star Trek II battle damage, and this puzzled me for a while. Oops, this is the stand trying to self-destruct. That's nice of it. Oh, yep, it has self-destructed. So there's another risk. That just separates out of there. All you do is slot it back in. But as I say, they are the most terrifying stands ever when you've got this much ship on top of them. I don't rule out the possibility that they will collapse at some point during this video. It's entirely possible. However, so this ship just confused me a lot when I got it. But when you look on the back, it then says it's both Star Trek II and Star Trek III battle damage. And that is why you see the self-destruction mess on the front here, is because it is in fact covering both 2 and 3. So this is basically the Enterprise up until the last few minutes of Star Trek 3. So I was able to get it relatively cheaply. I think it's I'm actually missing a hatch for it. So the hatch that wouldn't have the ball joint gap, I don't have for that one, but I do have for the other one. There is very little to call between these two. I'm going to run through the sound effects and the lights and so on. I'll show you the box for this one first. And it was funny because I'm looking at this again. This is it's a classic sort of box for the NX-01 style Art Asylum boxes. So you've got a good sort of look at the ship on the front. Nice graphics on the front as well, actually. Fair dues to them. And you've got Art Asylum there. Now, I made the strategic error of not putting my glasses on for this, which was deeply foolish. I might actually just go and get them, but I'll just show you the back here. So you can see that they're showing off more of their range of figures on the back there. So all the sort of original series figures that Art Asylum were doing there, but this is purely Art Asylum. As you can see down the bottom left there, again, there's no reference to Diamond Select here. Not just yet. So this is why I think they're using these ball stand joints, and these black ones are not the same as the NX-01 ones, but they are the same style, they're the same principle basically, because obviously they felt they worked all right for the NX-01s, but I don't think they actually took the weight of these ships into account when they came to do this. I'm just going to have a quick look for a year on here, because as I remember rightly, we've been looking at, this is item number 85860. Still can't see the year. The other thing that gave this away actually when I looked at this box again is the Art Asylum. It's got this little badge, little sort of symbol here, and that is on the NX-01 boxes as well from Art Asylum. So that immediately reminded me that this was actually an Art Asylum box rather than a Diamond Select box. Here's the information I'm looking for is down here, I think. So let's just have a quick look here if I can see it. So this is 2004. So I think this is not long before they were taken over. Made in China. Art Asylum, the Art Asylum logo, Psycho Toys for Crazy Kids, a trademark of the Art Asylum Inc. So there we go. So authentic Star Trek sound effects, light up engines, bridge and deflector. So what then happened, of course, is that Art Asylum were taken over by Diamond Select. So then we got these boxes. Now, as I mentioned, this is not the right box for this particular ship. This is for the Enterprise NCC-1701 starship, electronic starship, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, but this is the A, it's not the original Refit Enterprise. So I can't really remember, basically the seller just sold it as is with this box, which was fair enough, I knew what I was getting. But it is possible to get the A in this box style as well. You can see this is the sort of the blue box. And now we're into the Diamond Select Art Asylum joint brand. So you can see there all the sort of, the later sort of toys that came out. And this box, I would imagine, is, yeah, this is 2013. So we are a long way from where we were just then. So this is several years down the line when they've been fully taken over by Diamond Select. So you can see there, that's all the sort of the general kind of ownership information and so on there. So this was a reissue of the original Art Asylum toys by Diamond Select, and I think to all intents and purposes these two toys are the same toy. Even though they're split apart by several years, they are still the same mould. The decals are slightly different. There's a little bit more detailing around the edges here and here, and the bellies are slightly different. There's a little bit of, one's blue, one's black. So this one's black, this one's blue. So they have differentiated them ever so slightly because the A was a slightly different style of Constitution ship compared with the original Enterprise refit. It's difficult to tell because of all the sort of the battle damage there, but they are sort of nominally the same class of ship, but just a sort of slight cosmetic differences between the A and the sort of suffix one, if you like. So I'm going to turn some lights off now. Let's have a look at the electronics and the sort of the overall sound effects and so on, because these are both relatively modern compared to the Playmates versions. I mean, I say Playmates versions, weirdly, there are no Playmates versions of these. It's really, really odd. Again, it's one of those quirks which I do not understand, because I don't understand why Playmates wouldn't have gone for the Refit Enterprise. I love the Refit Enterprise. I love the movies. I grew up on these movies. So, these are amongst my favourite Diamond Select toys that I have. And the A is a lovely, lovely thing because it's nice and clean and there's no battle damage on it. That's brilliant. But equally, 2, 3 and 4 as movies go are basically one movie split into 3 parts. So, that sort of is very much the history. That is when the original Enterprise dies, which is quite a thing because 2273, I think, was when the motion picture was set. So it's actually nearly 30 years since the original Enterprise launched. And then ultimately, probably only a couple of years later, it's then gone. So the refit doesn't actually hang around that long. So let's try the battle damage one first and we'll see how this goes. So it's a single press on the bridge area. So you can see them there, the nacelles are lighting up. I'm just going to bring you down a little bit so you can see exactly what's going on here, because there is quite a lot going on underneath as well, but you need to be on a slightly different angle to be able to see it, I think. Okay, this is probably better, I think. Just see if it'll... What's the problem with doing this in low light is you can't really see what's happening. Sounds like torpedoes, transporters, phasers, that was torpedoes actually, I suspect, more so. There's quite a lot lighting up, there's no speech. That's going to warp. Okay, so that's the battle damage one. So it's kind of generic effects. Slightly unusual given that, but again, it's just like the Art Asylum NX-01s. There's no speech, and I think this one is different. I think. I could be wrong. It actually sounds slightly more convincing to me. Those are exactly the same sound effects as the Wrath of Khan version. Cool though. Now, I believe at one point these got a re-release. So I think they got there's a 40th anniversary re-release as well. I don't think these are there yet. That might have been for the original Enterprise. So this is sort of maybe as good as they get, but I'm kind of surprised that neither of them have got speech effects. Because I lack the sort of the original box for this one, I don't know to what extent I'm getting what I should be getting, out of this one. And this is I've actually got the relevant instructions here for it, so I'm pretty sure that this is kind of what you would expect. And it just talks about sounds and lights, so it's a fairly sort of simple instruction booklet really. There's not that much to it. It's pretty much as you would expect. The nacelles do detach, incidentally. I don't think they would have been attached in the box particularly. I think they sort of, to shorten the box, they took them off and put them kind of alongside the main hull of the Enterprise. So that saved them a little bit of space in terms of packaging. Although looking at the Starship Legends version, I'm not sure they actually needed to. In fact, that is probably one of the key differences between the way in which they were presented. Because if you look at this, you can see that actually you can't see at this sort of range. Basically the Starship Legends box is much longer than the Asylum version. So you can probably see now, I suspect, that is considerably shorter than the Starship Legends box underneath it. So obviously with the Starship Legends one, they made full use of with the Art Asylum one, they made full use of the detachable nacelles and put them alongside it in the box to make the box smaller. But with the Starship Legends, they probably came pre-attached. So what I think I'll do is now I'll just show you one of these Enterprises a little bit closer up, so you can see the sort of the level of detailing on it, because I do think that for someone like me, who isn't into their sort of model making, you can see that this is really nicely detailed. It's got the where's my finger? Phaser emitters here, so the lettering is clear. The bridge detail looks good there. Little window details on the side. Got sort of the sensor dome at the bottom there. Try not to wreck it. It's a navigational deflector here. The torpedo launch is there. So as I say, this one's completely clean because this one hasn't taken any damage. But I do think the overall sort of level of detail is really, really good on these. I don't know if it's the equivalent of what you would get on an actual out and out model. The only screw holes you can see is the one on the hatch that has the battery compartment, but obviously put the battery somewhere because it's an electronic model at the end of the day. So if you're going to have an electronic toy, you've got to have somewhere to power it. So these are can be relatively pricey to get on eBay, because obviously they're not current. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did re-release them again at some point, because I'm sure they would be really good sellers for them. But we do now have things like the Playmobil version of this, and we've got the Tomy version, which looks incredible, but you're gonna have to pay for it basically. But I'm sure that's going to be a pretty awesome version. I really like these. I mean, these are the ones that really sort of make me smile when I look at them, because they are very, very iconic. Size-wise, incidentally, I think the Starship Legends box quotes it as a 16-inch ship. I'm just wondering if I've still got a tape measure handy. I haven't, but I have a ruler. So that's an easy 12 inches. Yeah, I mean they've got to be at least 16 inches. I would have thought. I'm trying to remember where I saw it quoted as being. Yeah, so So the Art Asylum officially says there that it is a 16-inch battle damaged electronic starship. So that's what we're looking at for these. So they're not quite as big as the Playmates original series Enterprise, but for whatever reason, Playmates did not do the refits. I still find it astonishing. I've said it before in this video, but I'm still really puzzled by the fact that Playmates didn't see fit to do the refit. I can't. My working theory for this is that for some reason, Playmates didn't have the rights to the original film series. That's the only thing I can think of, because they do have a gap. Their bird of prey is always quoted as being a bird of prey from Generations, not from Undiscovered Country or Star Trek 3 or Star Trek 4 or indeed Star Trek 5. Yes, the bird of prey got reused a lot. But their bird of prey is said to come from Generations. So I do wonder if Playmates, for whatever reason, didn't get a license to do large ship replicas for the films. Maybe AMT Ertl held that, and because Art Asylum and Diamond Select came later, they were able to get a slightly different license than Playmates had in respect of those original films. That's my best guess, because Playmates did, however, do figures from the films. So there's something there, there's some sort of odd little quirk in terms of their sort of license scope, which just seems to have impacted the ships that they came out with for the original movie run. Because I'm struggling to think, because I think even they didn't do Excelsior either, I don't think. I could be wrong about that. I'm trying to think if I've ever seen a Playmates Excelsior. Don't think I have. I think there's a Playmates Enterprise B, but again, that would have been Generations, not the original series of films. So it's an interesting one. It's a funny sort of little quirk of the licensing, I think, as to who got what when. But I really like these. I mean, you can whoosh these about to your heart's content. They're very, very solid. If you knocked an nacelle off, you'll be able to put a nacelle back on again. They just plug in. It's very, very straightforward. There's no wires attaching them. It's just a plug-in mechanism. So that's really, really easy. But as you can see, they are essentially the same mold, just a few variances in terms of overall look, but they are essentially the same mold. The stands are undoubtedly, I would imagine, a weak point. I'm sure you could glue them in, but the ball joints they're very stiff, and I don't think they'd be stable if you tilted them forward very much. As you can see here, I've got them quite flat, and they work fine there. They're well balanced like this, but I think if you move them too far in any given direction, the weight of these Enterprises would pull them over. So they'll stack up fine, you can hang them off the ceiling fine, and they're good because compared to Playmates, they don't have the screws showing. So they do display well. I would have, I will definitely be hanging on to these for as long as I have space for them, because they are really, really nice ships. No two ways about it. So I think that's a nice in to the movie period, and I have a lot of other ones to show you from the movie period, from the original series movie period, so from 1 to 6 basically. Because Ertl also had a hand in these, so I can show you some Ertls from 3 and 5, and I've got an Excelsior to show you as well. So I'm a little wander around for what else I've actually got from this particular period. But yeah, it's all sort of good stuff, and as I say, there are birds of prey that I can show you as well. So we'll get into that in the next few weeks or so, because I wouldn't normally do 2 at once, but it's just that these are so similar. There wasn't anything great to be gained from splitting them up. I'm just really surprised that the A doesn't have speech sound effects, but I can only imagine it's because they use the same electronics exactly from the much earlier Art Asylum ones. So that would explain why there isn't a sort of an uplift in terms of the sounds that they're using, because they're just recycled. As simple as that, I think. So, on that note, I will leave you, and I hope you're enjoying these. Let me know in the comments if you are, obviously. And if you'd like me to do anything different, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. But for now, cheers.